you may be asking why I'm walking out to the garden with carrots and apples. And that's because, well, a rabbit got into the garden, and we've got to do something about that. When I first put up the fence, you can see there's a door for, I put this fence all the way around my expanded garden, which measures about, 2/10 of an acre, about 1/5 of an acre, and put it up and made it extremely secure with chicken wire going all the way to the ground. We've got ground cover there. We've got wires. It's not electrified or anything. It's more of just a physical deterrent for things like deer and raccoons, and it's done a good job. But when I first put this door up, door worked great, and you can see it's really secure, but there was a gap right in there, and unfortunately I noticed a rabbit got in here pretty shortly after I had enclosed everything. And I guess the rabbit could have been in here when as I was fencing it in, but when I was fencing it in, a lot of the produce was pretty small, and I feel as if I would have noticed it. And so nonetheless, a rabbit got into the garden. What are we going to do about it, and how are we going to use these? The first thing that I had to do in the beginning of getting this rabbit out of the garden was, well, I guess we should say this, was making the decision that we weren't just going to set out with a 22 and just wait for it to expose itself and then, shoot it. That's not something we're going to do here. We're a completely vegan and organic farm, and so we're going to do things as compassionate as possible. And so trapping the rabbit and easily just releasing it outside of the fence is a simple answer, but catching it is not so simple. And so we've got to do a few things. And the first off is making sure that really there's no low-hanging fruit, so to speak, for the rabbit to go after. And so underneath here, I wouldn't normally need to use this time of year, row cover. Actually, it's not that advantageous to have the row cover, as it adds a little bit of extra heat when we really aren't trying to maximize heat on the plants. But we have some kind of newly planted brassicas, and those are tender and exactly what a rabbit would be going after. Also, over there, I had to cover up some of my newly planted green beans to make sure that we had those taken care of. To trap our rabbit, or hopefully trap our rabbit, we're going to be using this Have a Heart. This is actually a groundhog-sized cage. I had bought it initially before we had fenced any part of our garden, and because we were having some groundhog issues, but made the decision that long term it would just be more sustainable, just better for me to just have everything fenced in, to do a little bit of that work instead of worrying about things eating all the produce, kind of like this rabbit's doing right now. So we've got the Have a Heart cage. This should be a perfectly fine size. You could go a little bit smaller. I wouldn't necessarily go any bigger. I'd have worries that I wouldn't be able to trigger the trap very easily. But these Have a Heart cages are a really good, humanely way to trap and kind of relocate animals. In this case, it's going to be just relocating it, 2 feet just across the fence so that it can go, spend time with the other rabbits around the farm and not eat my vegetables. For our bait, we're going to be using, as we saw, we've got carrots and apples. Always go organic, even when we're trapping rabbits, but especially because we hope to see them around here in the farm long term. But what I like to do, and again, what I like to do, actually what I'm going to do, because it's the first time I've ever trapped a rabbit, what I researched was just to slice this up, and the less you handle it, the better. If I was wearing gloves, it'd probably be a better chance of catching the rabbit. But I'm not going to scatter these everywhere because we don't want the rabbit to get full and forget that we want it to be trapped. But I'm going to put a carrot and an apple right outside there. And then hopefully I can do this one-handed. Carrot and apple all the way to the back. And then these traps are really easy to set. You can do it up here and just trigger that. If you have the trap, you can understand. And hopefully, if the rabbit comes by, it'll step on our trap, close the lid, and we will hopefully have a rabbit in there in a day or so. We'll be out here every few hours just to check. We don't want to leave the rabbit in there too long. It's not so hot out this time of year, but you just always want to move the animal quickly, and not very long at all. We have the rabbit. And it's a little guy and probably scared, and unfortunately probably wasn't getting a ton to eat in here. We trapped it. It took a little while to get everything put together, but now that he's here, we're gonna do the easy job of releasing him just outside. It's not a very big task, and it's about as humane as you could get. All right, we're gonna make sure we take him just far enough so he goes here. And actually, one of my neighbors was complaining about not having enough rabbits over by them, and he's pretty riled up. Let's see if we can do this one-handed. I think he's gonna get out of there pretty quickly. All right, go free, little guy. And I will say, I've come out in a few mornings and actually noticed there's been 3 or 4 rabbits congregating on the outside of the fence, and I'll notice that one was on the inside talking to its brothers or sisters or relatives. And so it's nice that he or she will get to go back and enjoy life outside of the garden. And that's just one thing that not something that we had planned to do, but that is why we have the fence up. You can really spend a lot of time battling rabbits and groundhogs and voles, and you're always going to have some sort of pest pressure, some sort of rodent pressure, especially if you're in the southern eastern parts of the United States, and really anywhere around the world, you're going to have some issues. And so we put the fence up, but you've just got to make sure, where there's a will, there's a way. And that rabbit found just a little place to get in there. That's how I'm imagining it got in there. And I haven't had any other issues. I know that that's the rabbit because I can tell kind of by the size and how it was moving around. I'd seen it in here a few times, but it had been really elusive, but not anymore. We've got it trapped, and now it's free to go do things outside of the garden fence. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. We will see you in another picture, post, or video very, very soon.